Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering. Here we have Mark. Nope, that is not going to be Mark. These are definitely wrong, so apologies for the marquee. Uh, if whoever played in this match wants to put in the comments, we'll pin that to the top. But this is going to be a Esper Stoneblade versus a 12 post list. We have Once Upon a Time showing us both Prime Time and Pithing Needle. Now Elvish Reclaimer. Such a dangerous card versus control. If that does not get answered, that will eventually convert all of 12th post lands to exactly what they need to be, either additional locus, form of cloud post, occasionally glimmer post, and of course Eye of Ugin, enabling the tutoring for cards like Emrakul. And then even if you need to, go get a Karakas, and now you've got infinite turns. Just cast your Emrakul by tapping 4 simple lands, 4 cloud post taps for 16 mana. You only need 13 once you have Eye of Ugin out, and there you go. Infinite turns get you out of literally any situation. Emrakul can't be countered. Not a whole lot you can do to interact with that situation using magic cards. Swords of Plowshares does take out the Elvish Reclaimer before it does any of its crop rotating. However, this is kind of a nightmare matchup for a deck like Esper. Esper Stoneblade doesn't really put an incredibly fast clock out there. It's a grindy deck. Now, Green Sun Zenith, X equals 1 or 2. It's going to be 1. Still had 1 mana floating. Able to play around days, though that's not likely in a list this grindy that looks to go into the deep waters and have some attrition. Cards like Batterskull can do quite a lot for engaging in battle with minions that are smaller, kind of trading even with something like a 4/4 or crashing into a bunch of smaller guys, forcing them to block. I mean, there's so many different ways that Batterskull can shore up some of the kind of smaller fireworks, I suppose. But when you're talking about things like Primeval Titan and Eldrazi, the 4/4 is tiny. Usually it towers over the battlefield. And here, Cloud Post ramping forward at this point now. 7 mana available. Elvish Reclaimer is ready. That can actually convert this forest into another Cloud Post. We could actually see an untap and a casting of literally Emrakul, just ending the game essentially on the spot. Rainstorm digs, but such a dangerous situation. Even if you have a Swords to Plowshares for this Reclaimer, no fetch. Now we go to the end step. That forest is converted. What will it be? Another Cloud Post, signaling that perhaps the real danger is already Cloud Post's hand. Oh, wow. Emrakul, it's the worst case scenario. 5 mana each. That's 20 mana, 5 floating. Cast an Emrakul. That is a way to end game 1. And Esper's going to need a way to really pressure Cloud Post here. Now, oh, nice. Back to basics. One of the stronger cards versus Cloud Post. Seeing as how it already enters the battlefield tapped, back to basics could be very, very strong. That is a card you're very happy to see when you look at your 15 after getting KO'd like that in game 1. Gives you at least some type of hope. We'll see if it's a false hope or not. Back to basics. And Blood Moon and Wasteland. There's plenty of non-basic hate in this format, but still, decks like Cloud Post totally playable. Not a huge percentage of the meta, but I mean, what is? There's a handful of decks that are very popular, but in terms of power level relative to your options in this format, there are things that are barely played that are absolutely capable of taking down very large events. And 12 Post, definitely one of them. I've played a ton of Cloud Post in Legacy. So strong. A bunch of quality cards over there. Green Sun Zenith and Crop Rotation. Not enough mana. Going back. Cloudpost's strength in this type of matchup is just making its land drops, forcing the other side of the table to just find a way to stop it. I mean, casting literal uncounterable spells. Elvish Reclaimer. A nightmare card. If it resolves and you don't have a way to remove it, it will actually win the game on its own. It's not an exaggeration. Turn your first 5 land drops to an unstoppable win. Basic Forest, and leading out with a Once Upon a Time here. Interesting. I wouldn't have expected that so early, but Glimmer Post is found. And Expedition Map. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're going to be playing the map. You're going to need to play Once Upon a Time first. And now Ponder. Flooded Strand. And just Forest so far, but that is not going to be the case for long, as Expedition Map will be able to find that first Cloud Post and begin the exponential growth. Really a fun part about the deck. That exponential growth is not at all intuitive. In terms of visualizing how much mana it's going to produce as you add more and more Cloud Posts. I don't think most people, without the help of doing some math, would be able to visualize how much 20 Cloud Posts would make. And if you do the math, you're like, oh, it's 400 mana. It's not obvious. And Hull Breacher, an absolute all-star in so many matchups. Here, may just be a 3-power creature. Kaya is actually very interesting here, as it takes out quite a lot of options. I mean, that can take out Elvish Reclaimer. Probably won't be able to hit an Expedition Map just because of the ability to sacrifice it, but if there is Candelabra, that also is vulnerable there. Now we have a Crop Rotation, resolving very quickly. And a Ancient Stirrings. Wow, did he just whiff? He just whiffed on an Ancient Stirrings. I can't even say it. I'm so traumatized. That is unreasonable. Look at 5, put him on the bottom. Miss out on your prime time, and now a Jace the Mind Sculptor piling on. This is taking a turn for the worse. Will it be enough to win what appears to be a very poor matchup? A pair of Planeswalkers and a Hull Breacher versus a board of just lands. Who's favored? Seven mana total. Green Sun Zenith for prime time is a possibility. That is a play that doesn't necessarily end the game on the spot, but often it will draw a concession, as bouncing prime time with Jace, not really the type of play you want to be making. Rainstorm, we've got Teferi, this Super Friends Esper party. Continuing, but let's see here. Kaya can actually close out a game as well. Jace and Kaya, both Planeswalkers, can actually win the game. And Stoneforge Mystic for another angle of attack. Grabbing Sword of Fire and Ice. That'll likely be picked up by the Hull Breacher on the next turn. Oh, Cavern of Souls, a very dangerous card. Tithing Needle. Absolutely bricking the Sword of Fire and Ice. For now, Kaya's going to be able to get rid of that. Just making her feel useful. As we set up for game 3 in all likelihood. There's Sword of Fire and Ice. And there's, oh, actually going with the Teferi to answer it. Okay, that's also fine. Well, kind of. I mean, you don't get to equip it this turn. Not super exciting. Esper considering. A Fate Seal and Teferi actually ticking up. Interesting. So Kaya using her ultimate here to deal out some damage. Glimmer Post, however, gains some life back. And now Veil of Summer being tossed out there. Probably could have been a response, but instead it resolves, and now Ugin. What a haymaker. How about all of those colored permanents go to the bin? Wow. Talk about a swing. And now Eye of Ugin. Ticking up. Loyalty gaining, and this is, oh, Force of Will, just in time. Veil of Summer, such a brutal magic card. And Eye of Ugin now tutoring up Ulamog. Wow, despite all of those Planeswalkers answering the call, ultimately this 12-post list just running away with absolutely ridiculous plays. Bojuka Bog exiling the graveyard. And now Ulamog showing up to exile some permanents. And there's a Karakas, which can allow for this to continue. I mean, Esper will be left with absolutely nothing. Just a few sparse lands and a Sword of Fire and Ice. The new split second. Wow, that's one of the few ways to actually kill Ulamog there. That's very interesting. Split second on that card, preventing Karakas from saving Ulamog. Well, kind of. Does he just shuffle back in? I think he just shuffles back in. I think you can just tutor him up again. Yeah, he would be likely a reanimation target otherwise. Well, I guess it's a cash trigger. I don't know if he'd make the cut as a reanimation target, but people would at least try. Another Pithing Needle. On the wrong side of the board. Esper would love a Pithing Needle to shut down this Ulamog, or this Ugin. And there, that final activation with Eye of Ugin tutoring up who knows what abomination would show up, but whatever it was going to be awful for Esper. And despite having some cards in preparation here, we see Submerge, spicy card, especially in response to shuffle effects. Big fan of that card. Split second Diabolic Edict. Forget the name of that, but that one just got printed. Plague Engineer, not really helpful here. But there you go. 12 post. What an absolute monster of a deck versus the slow, dirtily blue decks in the format.